Hey everyone. So for my research paper, I wrote about the impact of spirituality during Viking Age Scandinavia and the ways in which the spiritual mindset of the Viking peoples influenced everyday life. So for this presentation, I thought that I would talk about Viking spirituality today, Viking spirituality in modern times. But just to start off, the Vikings during the time of the Viking Age had a very animistic worldview, which means that they believed that everything was permeated by spirits. So the plants would be the homes of spirits, animals would house spirits, every rock, every tree, pretty much every part of the natural world contained a spirit that, when worked with, could really either benefit or harm the community as a whole. Like, they would pray and do lavish ceremonies for certain spirits to bring fertility of the crops. They would do some to bring material wealth. And so they believed that through working with these spirits of the natural world, that they could impact their communities as a whole in a positive way. Their main goal was to bring positive things into the community. In terms of their gods, the Vikings were polytheistic in nature, which means that they worked with lots of gods as opposed to one. Catholicism, as an example, is a monotheistic religion in that Christians and Catholics and denominations of those faiths only work with a single god. Whereas spiritualities such as the one that the Vikings practiced, they worship tons and tons of gods. And as examples, this is the goddess Freya, and she is a goddess of love and beauty, pretty much like female attributes as seen during the Viking Age, and that's just a modern interpretation of her. So she would be worked with to help females with their, I guess you could say, gestation and like with the birthing mysteries and all that kind of stuff. Like if a woman was trying to attract a man, she could leave an offering to Freya in an attempt to pretty much make herself seem more beautiful to the man in question. Along with her, we have her sibling Frey, and Frey is the god of vegetation and of the crops. He was worked with a lot during the springtime and during the planting season, and then all throughout the time that those seeds would make their way to harvest. So he would be prayed to, and they would make offerings to him to make the crops grow stronger, to have a more bountiful harvest, things of that nature. And then you have the more popular gods and goddesses, thanks to modern comic books and films like Thor, as an example, the Norse god of thunder. He was extremely popular all throughout the Viking Age into even today. And when Christianization swept through the Viking lands, as the Christians did with most of the places that they traversed to, they tried to convert the local pagan practitioners to their religion through means of pretty much mixing Christianity and paganism. That's why you'll see a lot of similarities between pre-Christian religions and Christianity. An example of this is the hammer of Thor, Mjolnir. When the Christians came to the Viking lands and they were trying to convert, they tended to try to convert the pagans in a peaceful way as to pretty much have a smooth transition. So a common symbol of Christianity is the cross, a representative of the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, and etc. So what they did was, you'll find archaeological artifacts that are pretty much hammers of Thor shaped like crosses, and that was a way of keeping the old while they brought the new in. Along with that, so the Christians swept through, like all that happened, and over time the Viking lands became predominantly Christian. There were some people who tried to keep the pagan customs down through their family lines, but not much of it survived. Thanks to archaeological evidence, though, we have like the names of the gods and the concept of the world tree, which was a Norse concept that there were 9 worlds, and they were all linked by a huge tree. and so different beings resided in different worlds, and so that was the Viking worldview. And so, like, we, through archaeology, through bibliographical evidence, we see these remnants of these ideas and these concepts that the ancient Old Norse saw to be true. So today, we have a set of religions collectively called heathenry, which encompasses the neo-pagan traditions of Northern Europe. Like, there's different denominations of it, but pretty much this is a new religions that pretty much stem from the ancient Viking customs. And this was predominant, it came to fruition in the 1960s, 1970s, along with the rest of the neo-pagan movement, which was big around, like, the Summer of Love in '69 and, like, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's the time when most of the neo-pagan religions came to be reconstructed. And so, in modern times, it's the Northern European pagan traditions are collectively known as heathenry, and the practitioners basically, the whole religion is a reconstruction of how we have evidenced and how we have researched, and from the evidence that we found of how the ancient Vikings practiced their spirituality, with some modern concepts mixed in just to make it more suitable for modern times. So basically, the polytheistic nature is still there. The modern heathens worship a wide array of gods and goddesses, all of the same ones as the ancient Norse worshipped. And there's a lot of UPG in the spirituality, which is unverified personal gnosis, which pretty much denotes the idea that we can experience the gods for ourselves. It's not just it's not like they don't just go by books and research. Like, the practitioners form personal relationships with the gods through prayers and ceremonies and rituals and things like that. The concept of the 9 worlds is still very prevalent, and through meditation and things of that nature, modern heathen practitioners try to traverse these worlds and say prayers to these different beings and things like that. In terms of holidays and days of main days of worship, the Norse heathens and Norse pagans go by a Wheel of the Year concept. Now, here I have a plaque of a very common neo-pagan Wheel of the Year. It's not the same exact as the 100% heathen one. This is the Wiccan Wheel of the Year, which pretty much it aligns itself with the seasons and the changing of the seasons and the agricultural cycles. This particular one that I just showed you is a mixture of Celtic and Norse. So it took some of their main seasonal holidays and festivities and combined them into this wheel that many modern pagans align their ceremonies with. Like, for instance, the winter solstice usually falls on December 21st. That was the ancient Norse festival of Yule. And that's where we get our phrases Yuletide, Yule log. They're all remnants of the ancient holiday of Yule from the pagan times. For the spring, we have Ostara, and that just passed. It was the spring equinox, sometimes pronounced Yostre, which is the pagan prerequisite to the modern Easter. And some symbols that come to us from the pagan Eostara festivals are the hare, or the white rabbit, the eggs, decorating eggs, especially prevalent in the Northern European countries. We have the Polish pisanka egg, which are pretty much eggs that are sketched on, and they paint them lavish colors and all that kind of stuff, and just these really nice designs. And these types of eggs are found in Germany, in the Ukraine, in Poland, all sorts of the places in all different places within Eastern and Northern Europe. So those are just 2 examples of ways that the pagan holidays have fused themselves into modern day ones. So they work, like the modern pagans work along the Wheel of the Year, so certain things happen at certain times, agriculturally speaking. So, for instance, during the spring, that would be the time when the ancient Norse and even modern-day farmers would sow a lot of their seeds. So you would pray to a god like Freyr, for instance, to make your seeds fertile and pretty much prepare to receive a full and bountiful harvest. At the winter, the modern heathens work a lot with Thor. Because he was just somebody who was really associated with that holiday and with that time of year. And there's a couple other holidays too. And the modern ceremonies are not just reserved for those days. Modern pagans do prayers and ceremonies and rituals all the time. Sometimes for healing, sometimes for love, to bring prosperity. All sorts of things like that. In terms of the actual ceremonies themselves, modern heathens use the word bloat, which is the word that denotes basically the ceremony in which the main point of the ceremony is that we offer to the gods, and in return we expect them to bestow blessings upon us. And this idea of reciprocity is very prevalent in the ancient and modern world. You give to receive. And so in terms of these ceremonies, a lot of modern heathens like to use statues or pictures of the gods goddess that they're praying to for the rite, and then whereas the ancient Norse would make offerings of animal blood most of the time, modern heathens like to use mead, and this is a wine that the ancient world in general saw as extremely sacred. The ancient Greeks called mead, I believe, they described it as ambrosia, and it was the preferred drink of the gods. Like even the ancient Greek gods, they loved mead, but in the Viking period, this was the main type of wine that they made. And so today, modern heathens like to give that as an offering to the gods as opposed to blood, and they would offer it in a drinking horn, just like the ancient Vikings would have used. And you would pretty much pour your mead into the horn, and the mead acts as the catalyst through which. Sorry about that. So the mead acts as a catalyst through which the blessings of the gods can be transferred to us, and through which our prayers of praise and thanksgiving can be transferred to them. So that's pretty much the main point of the rituals of the modern northern pagans, is that we give thanks to the gods, we give them offerings, and then in return they give us their blessings. So that's pretty much the main point. So basically that's what modern heathenry is. It's when you are worshipping the gods of the ancient Norse in practices very similar to the ones that the ancient Norse performed, and pretty much it's the total reconstruction of ancient Viking religion and ancient Viking spirituality and worldview. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and after this I'll attach a couple pictures of some modern heathen things, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.